Hello and welcome to library class. Good as ever to see you. Now, this week, hold on to your hats because we are brushing up on our research skills, which I appreciate does not sound like the most thrilling way to spend the next 10 minutes. But there are a lot of advantages in life to being able to find out good information quickly. So this should be handy, and also it might come in useful in school, so there's always that. In this video, we're going to focus on why it's important to use good, credible sources of information in our research, which means we have to understand what good, credible sources of information actually are, which means I might have to look up the word credible, to be honest. Anyway, the last thing we're going to do is look at where we can get our hands on some of this good, credible sources of information. Now, to give it all context, we're going to do a really small research project. And because you guys are focusing on the weather at the moment, let's do some research about the weather. And because I love big storms and I'm making this video, we're going to do some research about big storms. But before we start researching, there's something very important that we need to do. Any ideas? Well, if we just start researching big storms, we could spend a lot of time gathering a lot of material, but not necessarily know exactly what it is we want to find out. Before you start researching, you need to think of some essential questions about your topic that can guide you. You'll be surprised how many people actually start researching without this. That means they spend a lot of time doing a lot of research without really necessarily getting somewhere. And the last thing I want you guys to do is have to work hard. It doesn't sound quite what I meant to say. Well, let's rephrase it. I don't want you guys to waste your time. I want the research you do to be purposeful and interesting for you. Alright, so what's a good way of finding out what we want to investigate? Well, the classic way, and I know you've done this before, is a brainstorm. So let's brainstorm everything we know about big storms.
Okay, so we're brainstorming big storms. I'm going to think about the different sorts of big storms there are. We've got snowstorms, thunderstorms, rainstorms, hailstorms, dust storms, windstorms. Now I'm going to note down things I want to find out and things I already know about these topics. So thunderstorms, I'd like to find out a lot more about how lightning is made. Also, someone should investigate how it is I can write questions out so quickly. It's amazing. I'm really interested in windstorms and tornadoes in particular. I'm really curious as to how they're formed. So that could be a good question to investigate.
Okay, so we have our question, but now we just need good, reliable, credible information. But what does credible mean? Let's get the dictionary definition.
Oh, dictionary definitions, the coolest part of the day. Oh, dictionary definitions. Woohoo, hey, they're great.
Thank you. Anyway, the Oxford English Dictionary defines credible as meaning believable or convincing. Thanks, dictionary.
Oh, dictionary definition.
Enough of that, thank you. So, it's pretty clear you need your information to come from a source that knows what it's talking about. An expert, if possible. If you were doing a project about some kind of wildlife, you'd be pretty pleased to find information from a zoologist or from a magazine like the National Geographic, which, as we know from an earlier video, is a really reputable source of information about nature. But if you decided not to use those sources and chose instead just to go next door to ask your friend what you knew about pandas, well, that's not going to impress too many people. Mind you, you wouldn't be the first. I tell you what, let's go and take a look at what it would look like if you made absolutely no effort whatsoever to find credible sources for this research question we have about tornadoes and how they form. Come on. Ladies and gentlemen, you will get a chance to ask your questions at the end. For now, I am very happy to tell you that I can reveal how tornadoes are formed. It's from people standing in the garden, waving their arms around like this, excessively destabilizing the air around them and creating the dangerous tornado system. So thank you. Okay, questions? Yes.
Hello, yes. Can you tell us where you got your information?
From my dad.
Huh?
Yes.
Is your dad a meteorologist or a scientist of some kind?
No, he's mostly my dad.
What?
Yes.
Yes, where does your dad get his information?
From his friend Bob, I think. Yes.
Thank you. Is Bob a scientist of some kind?
Bob? No, I think he's an accountant. Something like that.
Oh dear.
Yes.
So you can't prove the flapping arm theory then?
Well, I just said the information, so you heard me, right? Yes?
Does your dad have any evidence to back up these wild claims?
Well, he's bigger than your dad.
Can you prove that? My dad's quite big.
Well, maybe I can. Well, that's the end. No more questions. So as you can see, if you want people to take your work seriously, you have to be able to back it up with credible sources. But how do you tell the difference between a credible source and a source that isn't credible? They can look really similar to each other. And it can take a lot of practice and maybe the help of a teacher or a librarian to tell the difference. Honestly, it's a huge subject, and we're only really going to scratch the surface of it here, unless you want a 10-hour library video.
Library class, fascinating.
Well, a quick way of finding credible information is to get it from a place that you know always has credible information. And one of those places is the library. I imagine you thought I was going to say that, and I just did. Yes, the library. And a good place to start in the library is the non-fiction section. Here we are, a book about hurricanes and tornadoes. Fantastic, right? Yeah, absolutely it is. The thing about non-fiction books that helps them be credible is that generally they have gone through an editorial process. Part of that means they've had their facts checked. And also librarians tend to favour books that get their facts right. So you know that when you pick a non-fiction book out of the library, it's very probably a credible source. There are, however, two problems with non-fiction books and research, even though they're fantastic. The first is that the information in non-fiction books can become out of date. And unlike websites, books can't be updated instantly as knowledge and understanding about a subject changes. Of course, new editions of non-fiction books are published, but you can't always guarantee that the library will have them. What can be worth doing is just checking to see how old the book is that you're using. You can do that by just going into the first few pages, and you'll find a page containing all the information about the book's publication, including the year in which it was published. This book is from 2004, and while I suspect most of the information is still correct, it is over 10 years old, so there may be places here and there where I might want to double check. The second problem is that the library is, well, it's closed, so there is that. Okay, so you can't get to the library, so off to Google, right? Well, okay, but then you're back to the same problem of having to sort out credible sources from sources that are not credible. And that's probably the main challenge of looking for information online. While there are some sites that provide some credible, reliable information, there is a huge amount of nonsense out there. You have to bear in mind that about 380 websites are being created every single minute. You have to assume that a lot of those aren't exactly giving you expert advice and information. Last week my cat made 3 and he can't even type very well.
What's this? Sendmetuna.com, and you haven't spelled tuna right again.
Listen, search engines such as Google are wonderful and incredibly powerful, and learning how to get the best out of them is going to be a very important part of your learning. But there is one place you can go to first before you go to Google. And, well, it's a bit embarrassing this, but we're just going to have to go back a bit. I have to make a correction. The second problem is that the library is, well, it's closed. So there is that. Right, hold it there. Because what I should have said was that the library building is closed, but some very important parts of the library are still open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Is that why you look so tired?
No, that's just my face, honestly. Anyway, the point I want to make is that if you go to the library's webpage, which is part of the school's website, you will find there are several online databases where you can find credible, up-to-date information. Essentially, the articles in these databases have been through the same editorial and fact-checking process the non-fiction books go through. And I'm going to tell you about one of these in particular, just to begin with, and that is the World Book Encyclopedia. We've talked about it in class before, but maybe only a couple of times. And I really want you guys to have an opportunity to go back and get familiar and comfortable with using it. So let's take a look.
So as I say, first go to the school website, but then click on resources and then library catalogue. That will take you to this place. Click on Inter-American Academy and that takes you to the library homepage. It's not a very exciting homepage, I'm afraid, but it'll have to do for now. The World Book Online Encyclopedia is at the bottom of the first group of choices. So click on that and that will take you through to a screen where you put in your login ID and the password. It's the same for everybody and I've included it in the instructions for this class that Miss Davis has sent you. Any problems, just send me an email and I'll help you out. Once you're in to the World Book proper, you can see lots of different options. I think for you guys, you should go ahead and click on the student option. There's a search bar where you type in what it is you're looking for. I'm going to start by actually just typing in storms because I want to show you the range of subjects the encyclopedia covers. And here we are, all sorts of different storms. An article about storm chasers, a magnetic storm, dust storm, the Dust Bowl in the 1930s in the States, hurricanes, thunderstorms. But of course we're looking to find out about tornadoes. So let's type in tornado and see what we get. The main things we're seeing here are reports about actual tornadoes that have happened. But of course we are specifically looking for how tornadoes are formed. So I'm going to write tornado formation in the box at the top and see if that changes the results. Oh yeah, this seems to be more on how tornadoes are formed. I'm going to click on this article here. And here we are, good looking article that seems to have everything that we need. There's a diagram there of how tornadoes form and a video showing a tornado in action. Let's go back to the article itself and look for the answer to our question about how a tornado forms. There it is, there's the information we need. Now, the last thing we need to do to emphasize the fact that this is a credible source is cite the article. Now, citations are an important subject in themselves, but just for now, I want you to understand that citing an article means you make a note of what the article's called, where you found it, and perhaps most importantly, who wrote it. In World Book, you can find out the author of an article by going to the bottom of the page, click on the citation button, and it'll give you this information, which you can copy and paste and put into your project to show where you got your information. The author of this article is a man called Howard Bluestein, who is a professor of meteorology at the University of Oklahoma. He is a very well qualified scientist who understands all about the weather.
Also, I really like tornadoes.
So perfect for showing that this source is credible. Oh, hang on, I'm just getting word that that information is being shared right now in the press conference. I hope it's going better.
And so, in conclusion, it is indeed that mixture of a gigantic thunderstorm coupled with moisture, warm and cold air, and winds moving at two different speeds that creates a tornado. Yes.
Did your dad tell you that?
No, this information came from Dr. Howard Bluestein, Professor of Meteorology at the University of Oklahoma. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yes, no, thank you. Yes, I know it is indeed a credible source. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Okay, that is the end of library class for this week. I do just want to say that if you ever have any questions about any aspect of research at all, please send me an email to the librarian address here and I will do my best to help you out. Lastly, next week we have a fun library quiz, and if you have been following these library videos over the last few months, you're going to find yourselves able to answer quite a few of the questions. Okay, stay safe, keep discovering, keep exploring, and I'll see you then. Bye bye.